Leo rising. How you doing, Leo? This is your reading for the Scorpio full moon that's happening on the 12th of May 2025 at 22 degrees and 12 minutes of Scorpio and Taurus respectively. Hello and welcome. My name's Chloe. I work with card divination, astrology, and as you just heard and as you can see, I channel multi-dimensional energies through my body, both in the form of physical and vocal light language. This is my spirit team, my guides, coming through to bring in healing, attunement, and activation codes to the messages that want to come through for you today, my loves. So this is a full moon. It does represent an element of completion, but I work with 6-month cycles when it comes to the lunations, and predominantly the messages that are going to come through in this reading is what's going to be going on with the activation code that comes through with the full moon that then unfolds over the next 6 months up until the Scorpio new moon. So if you're watching this after the event, you are not missing out on any of the energy, any of the support that's wanting to come through for you today. Now I read for the rising signs. So for those of you who do not have Leo in the first house, look to the house it does fall in your natal chart. Look to the themes of that house, and you want to apply those themes along with all the other meaning you've got going on in the sign of Leo to the messages that come through. It will be as if that Leo energy, wherever it falls in your natal chart, has now energetically moved to the first house. So the astrology for the rising sign will always still link in. You've just got to add on your own natal chart meaning on top of it. Say you've got Leo in the 10th house with your sun and your Venus there, you'd apply all of that meaning to what comes through here in this reading. As always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So before I get into your reading, Leo, there is a collective reading. That was the first reading that went out for this transit, where I've broken down the astrology in way more detail, and basically everyone's getting involved. All the celestial bodies are involved in this moon. It's pretty intense, and I go through and break down what the frequency is, what the intention is of this full moon, what the most integrated and expansive intention is, and really get into the weeds of what the meaning is for each of the planet's celestial bodies and how that forms an energetic blueprint that then we're all working with collectively. I have to say that collective reading blew my mind. Everything I was talking about, the cards were very literally recreating what I had just said when they came out consistently, in a really obvious, can't even debate it kind of way. Everything was very aligned in that reading, and it was quite powerful. And it's not surprising given what's going on with the astrology this year with this moon, that things are, even though there's chaos, even though there's drama and this, we're all being pulled in lots of different directions, we may not be seeing things fully manifest in the highest alignment that we perceive or that we think is possible. It's really teaching us that there's we're being formed in a crucible at the moment, right? And that means a lot of old junk is being worn away, is broken down in order for us to come out reborn, right? We're being reborn next year. That it's really just saying that everything in your life, even if you're like, what the fuck is going on? Everything is aligned, right? And it's all part of this great unfolding. It's all part of the process, and it's allowing us to lean in and trust what's going on. So yeah, that's in the collective reading. Pulled collective tarot, channeled messages came through. So if you want a deeper understanding of what's going on here in this Leo reading, for this moon, pause this video and then come back to see how it's affecting the Leo area of your chart. So I'm going to be pulling 3 cards from this deck while I'm talking about the astrology for Leo rising. And the first card is going to be what's being closed out with this full moon. There's been a lot of fear responses coming up, a lot of old programming where we lean into sort of paranoia or catastrophizing rather than standing in our true power in the darkness of Scorpio, right? It is a very shamanic energy. It's very powerful, but it can can feel it through the process of Scorpio. It can feel very disarming because it's dredging up sludge. It's dredging up all of those natural responses in our human vessel around the fear around being in the dark, fear around fear, right? Fear around scarcity. And it's switching, it's letting go of all of that in order to switch us into our power, right? I didn't mention this in the collective, and I'm going to talk about it in the oracle reading. I always pull these oracle cards before doing any transit, but it's always the last reading that I do. Is the Taurus Scorpio axis. I had this message, and it's a bit annoying I didn't put it in the collective, come through around, it is the journey of the lotus flower, right? The lotus emerges from the bottom of the water, through all the mud, through all the sludge, being in the darkness. And that is that scorpionic energy of through this very shamanic, powerful transitioning, transformation energy. The death card is linked into Scorpio. We then come out as the lotus flower, and that is the Taurus energy, right? The enlightenment through the duality of existence, right? The light and the dark. So we really got to lean in and trust with all of this. So first card here, sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. First card is what's being cleared out with this moon, right? What fear are we releasing? What energy within us is being let go of? Second card is going to be what's the activation, right, that we're then working with over the next 6 months. And we're also going to get a card on how to work with that energy, how to amplify that activation, which I'll be tapping into the most integrated and expansive in activation, what the intention is of that activation, and that way you can apply it to the nuances of your life, the good, the bad, the beautiful and ugly, and go, oh, this is what's behind all of this. This is the higher perspective behind it that just sort of helps settle us and help us get a bit of perspective. And as I said, we're going to get a card on how to work with it, how to amplify that activation, as well as the card at the bottom of the deck. And we're using 2 different oracle decks in this transit, so we'll check in with them right at the end. So my lovely Leo risings, where is this happening for you? Well, this is happening in your 4th house, right? This is your roots and your foundations. This is your the ancestors, both blood and soul lineage, the parental figures, the roof over your head, and the things that you do in private. Now, I like to envisage a tree in the natal chart, and the 4th house is the root system. We need a strong, healthy root system for us to grow and expand in a really healthy way. Now, there's a lot of trauma in the 4th. Right, we've got the ancestors there and the parental figures, and whether we feel safe and secure, whether our foundation, literal and figurative foundations, feel secure. We can get a bit disrupted, dysregulated because of the 4th, right? And so you've got a big full moon happening here around the elevation of your understanding of what you're capable of building with. You may find around this full moon, you may be spending it at home. You may have been doing a lot of things around the house in the lead up to this full moon. There's a real focus point on that area of your life with this. But as I said, there's a lot of trauma in the 4th, right? And so this is dredging up a lot of wounds around how you build, right? How you feel safe and secure, that not only come from what you've learned from your parental figures, good, bad, beautiful or ugly, as well as the ancestors, right? You think of so many of our previous incarnations, and our ancestors have been through difficulties and struggles when it comes to feeling safe and secure and being able to build from your truest form. And so I can really see some energy come through here and be released here around that. But overall, the moon, it represents our emotional body, our intuition, whether our needs are being met or not, how to give and receive nourishment. And so with every full moon, we see a clearing out. We see a clearing out of blocks around being able to intuitively nourish ourselves around things that serve us, serve our foundations for the long term. Rather than the poor impulse control of leaning towards things that just don't nourish us. Releasing love languages and trauma limiting beliefs around your emotional body, around how that is fulfilled, your intuition around those things. Okay, that one is winking at me. Okay, Leo, we got all of the tarot cards so far. Let's get the oracle cards. So yeah, big illumination, and this is linked into, okay, that came out quick. Okay, yeah, they were wanting to give you two, and that feels like that's linked into the first pile. So the sun is over in Taurus, which is your 10th house of life path, career, visibility, reputation, how the big outside world sees you. Now, career doesn't have to be life path, it can just facilitate it. So the sun is conjunct Uranus. There we go. And this is the great liberator, right? So Uranus wants you to be able to walk your path and have the vision and the clarity and the freedom to do that. And so this feels very a big clearing out, a deep, right? I talked in the collective reading that this moon is following the Taurus new moon, which brought in a new blueprint for heaven on earth for us all. And now this Scorpio moon is kind of like a defrag. I don't know if you've ever done that on any of like your laptop. It's when you've like deleted an app from a device, that even though you've deleted it, there's still code in the device that is dead code, is junk code, that then the other apps, the other programs have to kind of jump over when they're trying to run, right? So defragging any device like that clears out that junk code that then streamlines what's left, right? And so this very much feels like it with that Uranus Sun conjunction around you having the vision of where you're heading, right? Fundamentally in your body, right? That's Taurus. That is helping you release and let go of the junk that's in the fourth, that's stopping you feeling safe and secure to go out and do your own thing. It really does feel like a big clear out around fear. So we've got the moon over in Scorpio, we've got the sun over in Taurus, we've got Pallas Athena over in the sign of Aquarius. Now she represents long-term strategy, she represents wisdom, long-term planning, mature energy, not poor impulse control, and she's over in your 7th house of one-on-one committed relationships, right? Intimate relationships, important relationships in your life with one-on-one, with an energy, whether that be a business partner, clients, intimate friends, long-term committed romantic relationships, as well as your relationship with source. And so she's been there a while, you may have really noticed that you are thinking about the long game when it comes to important relationships in your life. And so she's squaring the sun and the moon, and this is forming a T-square. And with a T-square, the release point is the bottom of the T, and that happens to be Pallas Athena. Now, this won't be the case for those of you who have placements in Leo around 22 degrees, right? The orb can be pretty wide with that, right? I would go up to 15 to 30 degrees of Leo, of where you're then forming a grand fixed cross, which is what we had with the Taurus new moon, which can feel quite discombobulating because you're being pulled in lots of different directions: self, home, other, life path, right? These are the big houses of the natal chart. They're the pivot points of the natal chart. They form the foundational cross. All of these different areas can be clamoring for your attention, and you can feel quite overwhelmed by it. The trick is with a grand fixed cross is to breathe when you're feeling that, and then see what instinctively you're drawn to do after you've cleared your energy field and stepped out of that overwhelm, because then you turn this into a generator of building for the long term you know, you can, whether it's with a person or with source, this embodiment of your co-creation, your collaboration with the other, let's just leave it with source, and then you can apply whatever important people in your life is happening right now, whether that's work, friends, or lovers. But your relationship with source that serves you for the long term, where you're not disregarding yourself, right? Mars is there, the ruler of this moon. It's a little early on in Leo, so it's not quite forming the grand fixed cross, but there's a real sense of confidence and independence through your heart space. There's allowing you to stand proud in who you are and be able to act upon that for the long term that serves your soul's path, that serves your soul's mission, right? So that's for those of you who've got things around those degrees of Leo. This moon happens to be on my Saturn, squaring my natal Mars at 22 degrees and my Aquarius moon at 20 degrees. So yeah, I've definitely been feeling it. It's been a bit of a head fuck, but it's worth it. I feel a release point has happened. The moon's still in Libra right now. But anyway, I just wanted to share a bit of my experience of, like, if you're feeling really overwhelmed and pulled in lots of different directions and maybe a little bit frustrated that certain old paradigms have been showing up quite loudly, I want you to trust in it, because the agenda here is realigning our instincts to that of a higher perspective. Oh, no, not again. That completely fell down in the collective reading while I was talking about slowing down and getting away from technology. The screen falling down. It's quite wild. That it really is a defrag of all of those things, and it can be frustrating. But this year is the year 9. It's the year of the wood snake. We are closing out so many big karmic cycles, collectively and socially and individually. So for those of you who don't have stuff around those degrees of Leo, the release point is over in your 7th house of the other, of, relationships in your life. If they're not matching long-term energy, you're not really going to be that interested in them anymore, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's simply that you're not going to be sacrificing your energy on things that aren't in alignment with the path, aren't in alignment with how you build in the world. And either this can see certain dynamics fall away, and that's not a bad thing. It means both parties' soul contracts aren't in alignment, and that's part of the divine timing. Or you can often find that relationships, people in your life, will start to match this frequency that you're bringing to the table. Just trust in the alignment. So the reason why I talked about instincts is Mars is in Leo, Venus, the ruler of the sun, and now Mars rules Scorpio traditionally, which is what I work with. Venus is over in Aries. They are trine one another. I talk about this in the collective reading. So we've got the ruler of the sun, the ruler of the moon in alignment in fire. So we've got all this yin energy. And then with the earth and the water, and then we've got this big yang dominant energy of, like, right, let's get this aligned. Let's get this in flow. And for you, this is in your sense of self and your perspective, Venus over in the 9th. And this alignment of those perspectives, these higher perspectives, are linked into love, creation, energy, joy, pleasure. Mars over in your 1st house, how you embody yourself via your heart, all funneling into your 4th house of, like, this is how we want to build. Right, let's get into your stuff, Leo. I've been talking for a while. So what's being closed out? What's being closed out with this transit? The 2 of Cups in reverse. So this is really powerful, especially with that Pallas Athena energy over in the 7th house, right? Because in the upright, they are eye to eye. They are equal height. They are both open to give and receive. There's a real sense of respect, honor, and dignity, love, desire to connect, desire to give. All of those things. Beautiful card, deep healing card, right? But it's come in reverse, which is so this card can represent yourself, masculine, feminine, and spirit, all coming to an alignment. This can be about a core fundamental wound around being able to receive all of those things in your foundational energy, right? Remember, I talked about love languages that we learn from our parental figures, energy that we take on from the ancestors, where this has been blocked. this has been blocked. You haven't been able to receive that which your soul truly wants, right? That sense of deep connection in your foundational energy, right? So two-pronged effect. One, the releasing of this block of union of self, of your emotional body, of respect, honor and dignity, reciprocity in your foundational energy, in how you feel safe and secure, right? And this sense of connection with your own existence, itai, with your own foundations. That's being cleared out. And that has a knock-on effect of that being imprinted within you, then reflected out in relationships, reflected out in that reciprocity between you and the outside world in terms of your life path, your career, where the sun is, right? So, and this is also tying in with the Venus being over in your 9th house of perspectives, right? This block around that deep sense of connection, because Venus is very much linked into relationships, where you're not feeling safe, you're not feeling respected. And in turn, that's meaning a disconnect around love. That's meaning a disconnect around a deep, deep, mature communion with the other, whether it's with yourself, with friends, with lovers, with source. This is being closed out. This is beautiful. This is really beautiful. And this way round, like they're probably feeling a bit unsteady being upside down, you know, that sense of not feeling solid on the planet, and your emotional body not feeling safe and secure. Love this. Okay, what is the activation code? What is the download that's coming in, right? That's imprinting into your vessel that you're going to be working with over the next, up until the Scorpio new moon, right? This, woo, oh, hi. This is the moon's card. Hello, the High Priestess. And again, really reflects the clearing out of this block, because the High Priestess is essentially our higher selves manifest in a tarot card, right? Our higher selves are at peace. They understand the great unfolding, right? So she knows that she is inherently drawing towards her that which brings abundance and fertility, right? Right, that she is surrendered to the process and trusting in the unfoldment of all will be well, right? Heightened intuition, heightened psychic connections, but just generally a real sense of peace, a real sense of honoring of the material and the unseen realm, and really allowing your unconscious to kind of be reborn. The releasing of the scarcity, of the fear, and trusting. And this is feeding into your foundation. So it's going to bring in a heightened awareness, intuitive awareness of what step you need to take next, where you need to go. But it's about softening. It's a softening and not planning, and allowing the intuition to come through. I find it's best, say if I've forgotten something and then I start thinking, oh, what was that? Oh, how do I remember that? And it doesn't come through. And the moment I stop thinking about it, ding, there it is. And so that's really beautiful with this Pallas Athena energy of... And it ties into, you're going to be interested in what serves you in the long term, that serves your nourishment, right? And your needs being met for the long term. And so that really ties into the kind of energies you want to commit to, right? Rather than the trigger responses, the trauma responses that you may, whether it's, as I said, the ancestors or the parental figures. That High Priestess is incredibly powerful coming in, of like really, it feels like a balm after this being a part of your reality, of feeling in your emotional body safe and secure and trusting in how things are unfolding. What a beautiful card to have in your foundations, like feeding into your root system. This is the download that's going into your root system of, you got this, it's all going to be okay. Okay, how to work with this energy. How to amplify it, because the High Priestess is happening, but we can make free will choices of how to work with it, right? Because so often with a High Priestess energy, we can go into fear and not trust it and not believe it, right? So we want to see how to reorientate our energy. Ace of Swords. Hello, Aquarius energy. So new ways of thinking, which very, very apropos. This what's already come up. So divine inspiration. You might want to start tapping into Pallas Athena, right, in your meditations and asking her for that inspiration, right, that's going to serve you for the long term from a higher perspective, right, with the mountains and the crown representing your sovereignty, right? So really allowing your mind, retraining the mind away from fear, away from separation, right, into faith, into knowing, into trust. But yeah, for those of you who feel so inclined, tap into Pallas Athena, right? Ask her, what do you have to reveal to me, right, that can help me on this process? Really straightforward reading. So what's at the bottom of the deck? What is the root energy of the High Priestess? Oh, goodness me. 2 aces, Leo. This is my heaven on earth card, right? Because this is about bringing the more integrated frequency into the 3D form, right? So that is that trust in the miracles of the universe, trust in the abundance, right? Trust in the love, and operate from that place and bring it into being, into the physical realm. New experiences in the 3D, new root energy in your foundations. This is an alignment with your path, right? Because 1, there's a path there, but 2, we've got Pentacles, which is earth, and so that's your 10th house of life path, career. So there's a very clear connection here between a embodiment of your foundations, a clarity that's coming in from source over in the 7th, clarity of understanding what kind of important relationships do you want in your life, because that reflects how you feel about yourself. That's leading to a strengthening of how you feel in the 3D world. You know, on this card there are lilies and roses, it's quite hard to see on this one, that are the same flowers as the magician, right? Which is the counterpart of the High Priestess, of you are able to create your own reality. You just have to surrender and let go and believe and trust that you've already got it, you've already done it, and it's already happening. Right, let's look at the card that wanted to go with this one. So we have from Rainbow Brainskull, which I always like to get out for the Scorpio energy, understandably. It'll never be perfect, so I'll leave it blank and let the earth slowly consume me. Perfection is, by definition, unattainable. You can aim for perfect, but ultimately it is the imperfections that will make it unique. Make art without constantly criticizing it. After all, if you don't make stuff, there is no stuff, and we all love stuff. Now, this feels like the fear of going into a new space because of the pain of this, right? Of so often whether this is relationship with your incarnation, right? With your home, how you feel safe and secure, with others in your life, right? That when we've gone through so much pain, our capacity to hold space for things that don't fully resonate with us diminishes to a point where, unless the most perfect thing is around us, we cannot connect to our own existence. We cannot feel, we cannot engage in it, because we've gone through so much pain. We're at a capacity, and so there's this fear response of, oh, something's wrong now, that means that it's all wrong. That feels like a very thin hairline trigger point within us. That this moon is closing out, that's allowing you to step into this space. For some of you, this might be very relevant in terms of being created at home, whether it is through work or just hobbies in the home, where there may be a block of not feeling good, not feeling that inspiration, that reciprocity of, you know, so many of us have abandonment issues because of, well, source, being disconnected from source, that then get recreated in our parental energy, that means that we feel like we have to be perfect, otherwise we can't exist, and therefore can't play, right, and get things wrong. So this feels very powerful. Now let us see what is the moving forward energy. What have we got? No decisions, just grooving. Oh my God, that so represents what's closed out and what's being activated, right? Stop making life harder than it actually is. You don't need to tell your heart to beat, it just does. And that's a more important job than anything your chattering mind does. Let go and dance to the rhythm of it all. Now that ties in beautifully with this of a new way of engaging with thought processes. Right? Letting go of the judgment, of the criticism, of the perfectionism. Allowing yourself, stop making life harder when we ruminate and we go over things, and allowing the flow of life to move through us, which is the high priestess, and trusting in it and finding your vibe. Okay, next we've got from the Inner Power Oracle. Now this is a bit of advice to help us self-care, because this is quite an intense moon, right? So what have we got? Under bright blue skies, I ask the universe to spread its energy far and wide so that all may feel the benefits of universal light. That's really lovely in regards to sometimes we can get stuck in our head and stuck on the minute details of life that aren't working, right? And this is like, no, when we're in that space, take it out, take the love, send the love everywhere, right? That will help recalibrate, recenter. Itala dice le modufala di anima. Dice le modufala di animo, duela di anima. Right, that really, honestly, when we think about the collective, we think about things other than just ourselves. And not that I'm saying don't think about yourself. I think it's one of the fundamental things that we're here to do. But it can help you get out of perhaps distortions in your emotional body and in your mind that are coming to the surface that aren't here to be fully. They're not here. They're not permanent. But we can think that they are. That it's like, take yourself out of yourself in order to get back to the truth of yourself. Right, my loves, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it resonated. If you want a personal reading, my website is everywhere, or email me directly. Leo, what a reading. That High Priestess feels really powerful. There, especially with the Scorpio energy of reconnecting to that and fixing it in, because Scorpio is fixed. Okay, my loves, be good to yourselves, be good to those around you. Safe travels and be well until we meet again.